Hey, how's it going, guys? Steve and Mike here from Roto Junkies, and we're here to talk to you guys about some buy-sell candidates for your fantasy football leagues. Maybe some guys who's a little undervalued that you could target in trades, guys who are overvalued who you might want to dish out and get what you can for them. And just a reminder, check us out on Facebook at Roto Junkies, Twitter Roto Junkies, and Instagram Roto Junkies, and make sure you check out our waiver wire pickups from last night on YouTube. So, Mike, let's talk about quarterbacks. Who are you liking this week?
Well, I mean, speaking of our waiver wire pickups, I think we had a good one last week with Jay Cutler, and I think that's a guy whose stock is just going up. I mean, you look at what did Matty Ryan really have coming into this year? Everybody was so high on him. He had the two dominant wide receivers. He had the great, tight end Antonio Gonzalez, and someone who they finally thought they could get going out of the backfield in Steven Jackson. Now tell me, what does Jay Cutler have? He's got Matt Forte, better than Steven Jackson, Martellus Bennett, who's looking decent over the middle. And I'll take a healthy Alshon Jeffrey over a hurt Roddy White any day. Brandon Marshall, absolute beast. I mean, I'm just looking at it with the weapons and the volume of passes he's getting out there. It's almost like, what we were envisioning for Matt Stafford coming into this year, where he's got all these weapons around him. It's finally clicking for him. He's got a really, really good matchup this week against that non-existent Washington Redskins secondary. You absolutely gotta love him going into this week. If you're on your bye week, you got Drew Brees. Maybe throwing an offer for him. Guys are still not too set on him. He's usually that second quarterback. Let's say somebody was on the bye last week with Matt Ryan. They picked up Jay Cutler. Throw him in something there and try to get Jay Cutler in your squad this weekend. He's gonna have a huge game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't even think it's just going to be a huge game. He's got his bye in week 8, and I think from there on out, he's going to continue to be one of the better quarterbacks in the league. So let's talk about guys we don't like. For me this week, I'm not so high on Michael Vick with that quarterback controversy, if you will, over there in Philadelphia. Nick Foles looks to be a better fit for the offense than Michael Vick is. Granted, he's not a rushing threat, but he's still at a rushing touchdown. I think this is as high as we're going to see Vick's stock for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, I mean, my big thing is that now we've seen Nick Foles. He's no longer the unknown. Yeah, we saw him towards the end of last year in that Andy Reid stale, dump it off to Bryce Brown and LaShawn McCoy offense. Under this new Chip Kelly offense, he looks fantastic, hitting Riley Cooper for a touchdown, Deshaun Jackson getting him going, Shady McCoy's production didn't go down. You got to figure, if those weapons can keep going, the quarterback's interchangeable. So if you can get even that 70, 80 cents on the dollar for a guy like Mike Vick, you got to do it this week.
Yeah, I'm with you. If you have Michael Vick, it's not like you didn't have a backup quarterback to begin with. We all know his injury risks. Sell him while you still can. Let's move over to wide receivers. We got a couple interesting theories this week at wide receiver. Who do you like?
My likes, I mean, it's a guy who I would have gotten laughed out of the building on coming in on draft day, and that's Denarius Moore. Guy is absolutely crushing it right now. I mean, he's just filling that role for Terrell Pryor, where he's getting these passes and he's making the moves in space. Terrell Pryor, he's always a threat for his legs, so the linebackers can't, they can't stay back in coverage as far as they'd like to. It's opening up those little in between routes for Moore, and Moore gets things done with his feet. You gotta love the production you've gotten from him so far. He's probably out there for a lot of people, which is what I really love about him, especially on the bye week. Guys, if he was a must start in 3 wide receiver leagues, maybe you can dish him out, get something, and something that's not really doing too well for you, or just a piece that you're not really that attached to, and get a guy who I think could be, a top 25, top 20 wide receiver going forward.
I like him as a top 20 wide receiver going forward. Don't forget, he's still the wide receiver 1 on a team who all of a sudden has a quarterback that no one thought we were going to have a quarterback over there in Oakland. And, even last year, he was quasi-productive with Carson Palmer throwing the ball. We thought the weapons were the problem with Carson Palmer last year. It turns out Palmer's the problem with Carson Palmer. So, Denarius Moore's definitely got a target, especially on his bye week. Someone's going to be willing to sell him. Guys we don't like. I'm not a fan of Andre Johnson anymore. Had high hopes for him coming into this year. 1,500 receiving yards last year, 100 receptions. I thought he could duplicate it this year. But that quarterback issue over there in Houston is just terrible.
Oh man, it's just a shame right now. The fans are all cheering when Matt Schaub goes down, and they're cheering for T.J. Yates. I mean, I get it. The guy won a playoff game, but it wasn't with his arm. I see a lot more just going to the ground with this one, pumping up Arian Foster's value, maybe even getting Ben Tate going again. The fact of the matter is, I just don't see how, in good conscience, as an offensive coordinator, you can put the ball in the hands of a quarterback when quarterback play has cost you so many weeks in a row. They're just not. It's a dysfunctional offense. It's the ground game that's going to get them going. Sell Andre Johnson if you can get 70, 80 cents on the dollar for him.
So what are we looking at there? Like a Torrey Smith, Josh Gordon type?
Oh my goodness! If you can get Josh Gordon or Torrey Smith for Andre Johnson right now, you should be doing backflips. And make it seem like you're doing the Josh Gordon or Torrey Smith owner a favor, because like I said, coming in on draft day, you're looking at a third round wide receiver for like a 6th or 7th rounder. People still have some kind of value based on that. See what you can do with that one. What are we looking at for tight ends?
For tight ends, we are really liking
Jeff Cumberland. Now, Jeff Cumberland comes in here in a situation where Kellen Winslow goes down. You just saw him put up great numbers against Atlanta. Cumberland not doing too much against Pittsburgh. I mean, that game looked like it was straight out of like 1947 up until about halftime with Emmanuel Sanders doing backflips into the end zone. The fact of the matter is, though, that offense is not going to go very far, relying on guys like Stephen Hill, Jeremy Curley, Santonio Holmes, one leg. The wide receivers aren't getting it done in the passing game there. It's been a lot of passing to Kellen Winslow. When I hear Kellen Winslow PED suspension really hurts the Jets, that makes me terrified as a Jets fan. But as a fantasy owner, it makes Jeff Cumberland a pretty sexy pick going forward. Had a touchdown in that Atlanta game. Not too much doing this week. He's a great buy low candidate if guys are just sitting there with 2-3 tight ends on their, 2-3 tight ends on their team. Maybe he's still out there on the free agent list for you. He's a guy to stash. I really like him going forward.
Who don't you like this week at tight end?
There's a couple guys who I'm not too high on. Owen Daniels with the injury. We're looking at just a few guys who really, haven't been producing too well so far. Kyle Rudolph up to this point, I think his stock is kind of leveling off at this point. Who knows what Josh Freeman can do? My thing with Garrett Graham is, I went over this last week. He's not going to have a very good week this week going up against Kansas City. If you want to take a shot at that guy, if you want to take a shot at anyone in the Texans offense, look, like we talked about yesterday, for a quarterback to find a reliable player like the tight end. But don't do it until he hits his bye, because Kansas City this week is absolutely going to murder him. No one has done anything against Kansas City from the tight end position. Wait for him on his bye. Don't waste your waiver wire. Don't waste $1 in fab on him. You'll be able to pick him up from free agents, snag him up, stash him for a week, and you should have a productive tight end going forward. I mean, I can't really think of too many other people who I'm not liking. Anyone?
Not a big fan of Greg Olsen over there in Carolina. I love every other aspect of Carolina's team, but Olsen's been seen walking around in a walking boot. You've got Brendan LaFell finally coming on, Ted Ginn, who I still believe is going to come on, Steve Smith. There's too many weapons there for Greg Olsen in a walking boot to be effective.
That's reasonable. Another guy who I like, we usually don't ever talk about kickers, want to throw this in real quick. Mason Crosby, great game last week against the Ravens. He's been having, great games for the last 2 or 3 weeks, putting up a significant amount of points. I mean, they're free points. It's kickers. I get it. Who cares? But, I mean, when you're sitting there looking at a week where, on Monday night you could be coming in down 3-4 points, wouldn't it be nice to have that extra maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 points from a kicker? I think Mason Crosby is going to give that to you if you're sitting there with the likes of maybe Kai Forbath or Billy Cundiff. Guys who were like decent pickups going into the year. If tight end is stagnant for you, kicker stagnant for you, why not take a shot? Defenses. Who do you like on the defense?
Defenses. I'm loving the New England Patriots. Slowed down a little bit after that Will Fork injury, but they're playing the Jets this weekend, and Geno Smith has been prone to give fantasy defenses a lot of points. New England's defense has been underrated for much of this season, and I think starting with this Jets game, we're going to see them take back off and be one of those premier fantasy defenses. Even with the Talib injury, I still think great defense.
Yeah, and Mayo's down too, but really all that tells me is people are going to be able to run on them a little bit more. It doesn't mean they're going to be putting up, bigger passing numbers, scoring more points. They're going to have to try to grind it out, keep the ball out of Tom Brady's hands. I love that for a defense going forward. You've seen it work with Carolina, teams just trying to run on them, not being able to get much done in the passing game. It's a solid defense. They were great those first couple of weeks. They put up decent, passable numbers against the Saints, and that's one of the most high-powered offenses in the NFL. It's only going to go up from here. Defenses I'm hating on. The guys I drafted probably about 2 rounds too early, and that's the Houston Texans. The fact of the matter is, when offenses have to play defense, which has been the case now in, 4 games in a row for the Texans, you're going to be losing points. That's just how it goes. Pick sixes absolutely murder you. I know the default for most leagues is that pick sixes go against your point total. I know it is for my Texans. I'm pulling my hair out. You know who's given up the least amount of yards so far this year?
The Houston Texans?
Yep, and they're killing me with this fantasy defense. They're a middle of the pack to a low-end fantasy defense. They've been dropped a crazy amount in a couple of... I see that little red flag on the side telling me these guys have been dropped. I want to hold on to them. I don't see how. If I can trade them for anything at all. I'd trade them for a kicker at this point. I think I might trade them for, Blair Walsh. All right, now what you guys have been waiting for, running backs. Who do you like this week?
Stephen Ridley. Okay, I know Stephen Ridley has disappointed fantasy owners everywhere, and many of you are cursing under your breath right now at the mere mention of his name. But we saw him come on this last week. Mike predicted it. I didn't agree with him, but we saw Stephen Ridley come on this past week. Patriots offense isn't the Patriots offense of old. Amendola is going to be out again. Edelman's filled in admirably, but not by no means is he stretching the field. Campbell Tompkins is starting to catch passes. He's grown hands. But the Patriots have recommitted to running the ball, it seems like. They ran the ball a ton against New Orleans last week, and Stephen Ridley was their bell cow.
I absolutely love him. You got to figure LeGarrette Blount, flash in the pan. Brandon Bolton just can't get anything started. Leon Washington seems to be just a special teams guy, and Shane Vereen's another 3-4 weeks away from making his return. For me, buying the Stephen Ridley stock is almost like taking on Apple right when they signed Steve Jobs again. It's one of those things where everybody and their mother was down on him, and now I look at him. He just put up a great week this week. People, especially Stephen Ridley owners, might be trying to get out from underneath that draft pick. I don't think it's a smart move. I think if you can get him for the likes of Mojo Drew or Darren McFadden or Ryan Matthews, jump on that right now. I see nothing but the stock to go up for Stephen Ridley. We always knew he had the talent. He just didn't have that commitment to the run game, and I think it showed this week. That's what they want to get back to. Another guy to keep an eye on, just sneaky PPR, half point PPR. Chris Agbayani out in Cleveland. Guy's putting up I think it's 24 receptions. 16 receptions on 22 targets. He's got 2 touchdowns in his last 4 games. He's absolutely killing it right now. Especially like I said, just the most PPR. Keep an eye on him. Maybe not add him yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if he showed up on our waiver wire pickups videos one of these weeks.
I wouldn't be surprised in the least bit either. What about guys you don't like this week at running back?
It's the flip side of that Patriots coin. Bilal Powell right now, he was, a decent, RB2/flex. He was a fantastic guy going through, but realistically, he's, that guy. He's not doing too much. He's almost like Vic Ballard was last year. He's not a special talent. And with him now having his shoulder dinged up, with Chris Ivory being healthy for the first time, and then being committed to giving him a bigger workload with the Mike Goodson out for the year, I just don't see how Bilal Powell's stock is going to go any further up. And if people are still looking at him like he's that flex, maybe low-end RB2, you got to take what you can get for him.
Yeah, I'm with you. Bilal Powell, they traded Chris Ivy in that draft for a reason. They envisioned him being, their feature back there. Bilal Powell filled in admirably. But, the call's going to come in from upstairs, and Chris Ivory's their guy.
Okay. Well, I think that pretty much does it for us this week. No, well, I'm sorry, I got one more. Ruben Randall, just keep an eye on him in case that Akeem Nicks trade ever goes through. He's one of the top 5 most targeted wide receivers over the last couple of weeks. If that Nicks trade does go through, you're looking at a guy who's going to be pretty productive. Anything else?
That's all I got for you guys this week. Remember to check us out on Facebook, Roto Junkies, Twitter, @Roto Junkies, Instagram. Follow us everywhere. And definitely post on Facebook any questions you have regarding your fantasy team.
And don't forget to check in with this YouTube channel. We're doing starts and sits for the week coming up Friday, Saturday, somewhere in there. And, like you said, any questions, we'll answer them on that show.
Thank you.